Most people imagine moving abroad as the beginning of a better life, the kind of decision that instantly fixes everything that felt heavy, repetitive, or limiting back home. You picture a new neighborhood, new faces, new food, a new rhythm. The idea of a fresh start feels so powerful that even the act of packing your bags gives you a sense of transformation. It feels like you're finally doing something brave, something rare, something that most people wish they could do, but never actually attempt. When you arrive, that feeling only grows stronger. Everything around you feels alive in a way that your old life didn't. The air smells different. The light looks different. Even small sounds like traffic, birds, voices, languages feel like proof that you've stepped into a world that isn't just new, but more real somehow. You walk through the streets with the excitement of a child, noticing details that people who live there probably stopped noticing years ago. A sign, a market stall, a building with faded colors, a narrow alley, an unfamiliar fruit, a way of standing or speaking. You absorb everything. These early days feel like magic. You feel proud of yourself for taking the leap. You feel freer, lighter, more open. Even the simple act of buying water or taking a bus feels like part of a bigger adventure. You catch yourself thinking, why didn't I do this earlier? And this is the life I always wanted. It's easy to believe that the hardest part was just getting on that plane. But the truth is, this feeling doesn't last forever. And it's not supposed to. Slowly, without dramatic moments or clear warnings, reality starts to appear through the cracks of excitement. Not in a negative way, but in a grounding way. You begin noticing the differences more clearly. Not the cool differences that feel like novelty, but the real differences that shape how people live, think, and behave. A conversation feels slightly off, and you're not sure why. A gesture that should mean one thing seems to mean something else. A rule that felt obvious now seems flexible, and something that felt flexible now seems strict. Someone reacts in a way you didn't expect. Someone misunderstands you even though you thought you were being clear. The little cultural signals that you used to read without thinking suddenly become a puzzle. Nothing is wrong, but nothing is automatic anymore. You start to realize how much your old life ran on autopilot, how you intuitively understood your world without effort. Back home, you didn't need to think about social cues, timing, tone, space, manners, humor, or structure. You just lived. Here, you notice yourself thinking about everything, observing everything, analyzing everything, and that constant alertness begins to drain you. Then comes the phase almost no one talks about. A phase that rarely shows up on social media. A phase that makes people question their choice, even though it's completely normal. At some point, frustration arrives. Quiet at first. Almost polite, but it grows. The language becomes more than a barrier, it becomes a wall. The simplest tasks seem to take twice as long. Asking for help becomes uncomfortable. Buying groceries becomes a mission. Paperwork feels endless. Rules change depending on who you ask. Your sense of independence feels weaker. Your confidence dips. You miss how simple things used to be. Food tastes different. The humor feels different. People react differently. You compare without wanting to compare. Not because you think your country is better, but because your mind is searching for stability and familiarity. It's in this phase that loneliness shows itself. Not the dramatic, cinematic loneliness of being completely alone, but a deeper, quieter kind. A loneliness that exists even when you have people around you. A loneliness that comes from not feeling fully understood, from knowing that nobody around you shares your background, your references, your sense of normality. It's the loneliness of building a life somewhere where nothing belongs to you yet. Some days, this feeling hits harder than others. You might wake up thinking, did I make a mistake? Or was I being unrealistic? You might question whether you truly belong, or whether you'll ever feel at home in this new place. You miss things you never appreciated before. The sound of your language everywhere, the familiarity of your streets, the simplicity of interacting without thinking. But here's the part that matters the most. This phase is not a sign that you're failing. It is not proof that you made the wrong choice. It is not a warning to go back home. It is part of the transformation. Because just as slowly as the frustration arrived, something else begins to grow. Something softer, quieter, and far more important: adaptation. It doesn't happen from one day to the next. It's not a dramatic moment of clarity. It's a slow shift, an accumulation of tiny moments. A smile from a neighbor who recognizes you. A local phrase you finally pronounce correctly. A small joke you understand. A street you no longer need Google Maps for. A cafe where they start to remember your order. A moment where you realize you're no longer confused. You just understand. Your brain begins to relax. The constant analysis fades. You stop comparing everything to your country. You stop noticing the differences so intensely. You begin accepting that this place has its own rhythm, and you learn to dance with it instead of against it. And then one day, without warning, without a countdown, without fireworks, something subtle but powerful happens. You wake up, go outside, and for the first time, nothing feels foreign. You move naturally. You speak naturally. You react naturally. You're still the same person, yet not the same person at all. Your new life doesn't feel like an escape anymore. It feels like life, real life, your life. You understand things that once annoyed you. You appreciate things you once overlooked. You laugh at things that once confused you. You build friendships that only happen when two cultures meet halfway. You grow in ways that would have been impossible if you never left home. And you realize something deep. The journey wasn't about the country. It was about you. About the parts of yourself that needed to be challenged. About the beliefs that needed to be questioned. About the comfort zones that needed to be broken. About the version of you that only appears when you place yourself somewhere unfamiliar and let the unfamiliar shape you. Culture shock is not a problem. It is not a failure. It is not a sign that you're not ready. Culture shock is a transformation. It is the emotional price of building a life somewhere new. And the reward is a stronger, more flexible, more resilient version of yourself. If you're planning to move abroad or already living that life, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This space is for people like you, people creating a life far from home, one honest step at a time.